I'd like to call the meeting to order, 6 o'clock. Thank you all very much for coming out this evening. Let's see, first order of business, if you would like to stand and I invite you to join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Looks like we have everyone in attendance. Okay. Any public comments for city council? Mary?
Hi, Mary Rapar Stevenson. Just two comments. One, you as the city council are responsible for the citizens of our community in the sense of the infrastructure and other things that you do for them. So I think it's time to start taking care of the people who've been here the longest and perhaps do the right thing for them too, instead of playing catch up with all these new things that are coming into our community and trying to kind of develop things for something we don't have any control over, basically, which is population growth at this point. You know, somebody who can't get his road paved for 20 years and has lived here and paid his taxes needs to have that road fixed. So the priority should be to put those roads on there, no matter what new stuff comes along. And people have been moving into our community from other places. They have problems wherever they came from. And so they came to our community thinking they're not going to have any problems. And then they want things to be the same as they were in their previous community. And that's not how communities should work. If you want a community that's stable, that has people living in it and investing in it for the future of that community, then you need to take care of the needs of the people who live here, work here, invest their time and effort here. So that's all the first comment. The second comment is I want to invite you all to our Meditation 101. The Stevenson Grange number 101 is having a program. It's through Zoom, through the library. You go to the events calendar. I'm going to say this wrong, Matner. Melissa Matner from Underwood is a yoga master and a Buddhist, and she will lead this Meditation 101. This is part of our community resiliency programs, and this year our theme is human resilience. After 2 years and more of COVID, we thought that it was an appropriate theme. And then in September, we will have a suicide prevention program run through ruralminds.org, which is about the increase in suicides in rural areas. So we want to be part of that solution. So I will give you more information on that later. And we have our next two films, June 28th and July 26th. These are two films about PTSD. And and these are veterans, but veterans aren't the only ones who suffer from PTSD. Anyone who has had a traumatic experience suffers from PTSD. So these two films are free on Canopy. And then we have a discussion on the fourth Thursday at 6:30 through Zoom, through the library events calendar. These are Grange events and everyone is welcome. No fee, all free, and discussions have proven fruitful. Thank you.
Anyone else? Alrighty. There have been a couple of changes to the agenda as noted. Unless there are any questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Ooh, too close to call.
You don't get paid anymore.
That was a second by Annie. That'd be something extra for you on that one. All right, well, first and second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Flourish. Thank you. And just like that, you're up, Benj.
Wow, quick.
I know.
I think you all know me, but
For the record,
for the record, I'm Angie Weiss. I'm the executive director of the Skamania County Chamber of Commerce. I'm here to give you an update on our activities because we have a contract with the city for tourism promotion. We're funded by lodging tax funds from the city and the county. I do present at the county commissioners meetings quarterly. So if you would like more frequent updates from me, I'm happy to do that for you. It's been a while since I've been here, so I'm going to give an update on what we've been up to this year from January to June. So Chamber kind of has two hats, one being the Chamber hat and the other being tourism promotion. In bigger cities, those are separate, like in Vancouver, but in a smaller community, it's very common that the Chamber does tourism promotion. So I'll kind of give you an overview of both. We've added 30 new members since January. 7 of those are also became Chamber champions, which is an added bonus program that we have. We've added some new Chamber benefits this year. In the fall, we got a new database system, which allows for a lot more benefits for our members, really. So you'll notice the member listings are more enhanced. You can add photos, videos, logos, all kinds of fun stuff to your membership listing. We also can now do job postings, and there's a public facing page for those. So those are open to anybody to view, but only Chamber members can post. We also have a resource page on our website, and we're doing monthly surveys. Next up will be the ability for our members to add events to our event calendar. I am trying to figure out on the back of the house how to make that happen. So hopefully next week, I was shooting for this week, but I'm not very tech savvy. Our priority for 2022 is our government affairs program that is brand new to the Chamber. The last 2 years, we've done a membership survey, and that has been the top priority for our members, that they would like to have some representation from business to government. And so we are creating that program. We have a page on our website that you can go check out. Our objectives, our legislative platform. And right now we are taking applications for council positions for our Government Affairs Council. We hope to have those voted on in July and seated in August. So we will start doing government affairs programming with this as well. So we hope to do some candidates forums, legislative luncheons with speakers, and possibly maybe get into something like a state of the county or state of the city type of event. So all that programming remains on the back burner right now. And we'll create a special newsletter that's just for government affairs as well. As far as events, we had our Chamber annual dinner and award ceremony in January. That's an annual thing for us. We do our monthly networking events, morning Chamber break at 8 a.m. and then a happy hour event from 5 to 7 p.m. once a month. We've done 4 ribbon cuttings so far, and we have 3 more scheduled. We put on a new event called the Skamania Sip and Stroll in May. It was amazing, even though the rain was torrential, but we still had a great turnout and very positive feedback. So I'm super excited about that. And then of course we have Forge Blues and Brews Festival next weekend. So that's coming along awesomely. As far as tourism promotion goes, what we do with that, on a very regular basis, promoting on social media, placing ads, boosting ads on social media, those types of things. As of Memorial Day, our visitor center is now open 7 days a week. So we do that from Memorial Day to Labor Day. We have a new staff person this season, so she's great. We're super happy to have her on board. We regularly update the website with, seasonally with photos, events, business listings, things like that. This year, we've added a travel blog to both the chamber website and the Visit Stevenson website, so you can check that out. We do a monthly travel blog on a different topic each month. We also are doing a monthly tourism letter that we send out. Anybody that requests a visitor's packet gets added to an email list, so they get monthly communication from us, either in a newsletter format or flyers on events that are happening in our area. We're also doing quarterly social media contests with prizes. So this quarter we did a Brews and Blues contest. We gave away Brews and Blues tickets. And we're also soliciting FAM tours, which are familiarization tours. So travel writers or influencers, social media influencers, to come out, and we create an itinerary, a themed itinerary. We did one in April for fishing. That story will come out in July with Scenic Washington. So just a little bit ahead of the fall salmon run to promote that. And so we've created four itineraries, and we're soliciting folks to come right based on those 4 itineraries. We've got another guy coming, we haven't scheduled it yet, in the fall. We just recently, we have a photographer that we're working with. He's going to do a photo shoot this month, so we can update more photos on our website and for print ads. And he's got a plane, so we should be able to get some really cool aerial shots. And we've ordered 2 more webcams for Stevenson. One will be at the boat launch area, and then we had one on the courthouse roof, which died quite some time ago. And we've been looking for a new location for that, because we want to hardwire it to internet so it's more consistent. And so we're looking at, we're talking with Judith, putting on top of her building. So those 2 should be live this summer. That's what we've been up to. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Your webcam, is that going to look at the river?
One of them will look at the river, and the other one will be a downtown view.
Downtown?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people look at the webcam to come to Stevenson.
Yeah. So we have 2 that are currently on the river. We have a Bob's Beach and a kite cam, and then
The beach is kind of covered by trees, so you read all boats, so to get a clear view of the river, it would be nice to have a down the river view.
yeah.
Well, it seems to me, and maybe you can confirm this, that we have more businesses arriving in town, or at least starting up, which is great. Especially at least membership is increasing for the chamber. And so it made me think about how successful the chamber and other organizations were in keeping businesses afloat during COVID. So thank you for that tremendous effort that the chamber took on to ensure that our businesses were able to open their doors and to completely redefine themselves and how they were going to serve people. So I know that you had a significant role in that.
It was a collaborative effort. But
Yeah. Mhm.
So as you do, have many people come to you looking for space for business, looking for your advice on where to put a business?
Yeah, they are. Yes, we get lots of people looking for space.
And what do you tell them?
Well, if there's any space that I know of that's available, I let them know. There's a gentleman that contacted me earlier this week or recently, looking to for either land or commercial space, wants to move a business up from Washougal. So I directed him to Pat at the port for the space in North Bonneville that has yet to be built on, because he's looking for land too. Or
I guess the one that Clifford owns right next to the dentist office is still for sale, yes?
He needs
Clifton's how much, yeah.
quite a bit of
Yeah, Jack
space.
Clifton.
So
Pardon me?
he needed quite a bit of space.
Okay.
So, but I just let them know what I know of, and then I also direct them to the EDC or the port because they're good resources for that.
Anyone else? Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate your updates.
And please let me know if you'd like me to come back on a more regular basis, and then I don't have quite such a long report.
Yeah, that would be nice.
You're welcome to stick around.
It's a riveting conversation.
Okay, next up is the public hearing for our transportation improvement program. I'd like to open up the public hearing at 6:16. First up, it would be the staff report.
So, oh, I don't have it up there. Sorry. Is it still updating?
Look at this.
Oh, no, Paul
I-
is still trying to get it.
No, my computer's, it's just. It's.
Do you want to move and
Yeah.
share
No,
this
I'm
one?
not. It's right,
Okay.
it's just. yeah.
Okay.
It's very loud.
It is very loud.
So there was a workshop that was held on June 8th. And from that workshop, staff took feedback from the participants. And we also incorporated feedback that we had received from previous meetings and prior to that workshop. And we incorporated into a revised transportation improvement program. One of the main things that was taken off was the pedestrian access only for Kanaka Creek Underpass. And the project that was added on is actually a project that was slated to be done this year, but it's actually just going to be pushed out to next year. The county's not going to be able to get to it. So, and that is I'm in cemetery overlay. There's also two proposals before you. Option A, again, just has that change that I just mentioned. It keeps the paving gravel roads on there, as that was a council priority and kind of is in line with the infrastructure focus that council has been talking about as a priority. The option B takes it into account the feedback that we've received from the community, more specifically the residents along some roads that would be paved that they would rather not be paved. And so it takes those roads out, and also takes a road out that people haven't said one way or another. Basically, the only roads that are on there are roads that have been requested to be improved in one way, shape, or form. And then all of the comments again were summarized from that workshop. There was a large petition, and the comments from that petition were also summarized. You can also, all of the original documents are also in the council packet. And I think if you've had a chance to read the memo, the other reason for transitioning to the paved roads, in addition to just improving the infrastructure and creating a level standard for the city's level of service with regards to streets, we also have surplused our grader and are in the process of surplusing our grader, and currently do not have plans for replacing it as is. So that's some of the challenges. It just means that any of the roads that do need continued maintenance will need to be scheduled accordingly with either subcontractors or the county.
So gravel roads are. Can't grade without grade.
And lead times on any equipment are,
Mara.
and the recent grading that was done by the county.
Carolyn, do you want your comments now, or do you want to wait till the second comment period? Because the way it goes is there's the staff report, and we have comments from the public, and then additional council staff discussions. I know you had some thoughts, and if you wanted to share them now, or
additional thoughts?
As
besides
far
what's
as
in
the
memo?
difference between A and B.
Oh, I don't know if I have anything specifically that isn't in the memo already. Just I guess again, kind of major differences are option A keeps all the roads on the table for evaluation, which I believe is important because we own them, they're ours. And right, and then option B pulls them off. Yeah. And option B allows the fate of those roads to be determined by the general public. So like entirely until we revisit it again. So I guess until I think that until we have some additional analysis, we should still leave roads that are thought to be potentially unsafe or not meeting minimum standard open for evaluation. That would be option A. Yeah.
And that's all in both options. $50,000 is in the plan for next year to do that evaluation.
Yeah, that's, I guess, the major difference as I see it.
Okay, any comments from the public that are here?
With option B, does that,
Hang on, we'll get through the public part and
Okay,
then-
sorry.
then we'll dive in. Anybody here? See, we do have a hand up online. Anybody here like to take an opportunity to speak?
Yes,
If you could introduce yourself and where you're from for the record, please.
Sue's right. I'm here from Stevenson. I don't know if this is the right time. Just on the roundabouts that we'll be putting in at the end of the city.
So,
Well, that's.
I mean, it's not listed as a project on the tip, it's listed as additional projects. I think I put those on there to see if anyone wanted to advocate to actually put it on the tip. This is a 6-year plan and those projects are out to 20 to 40 years.
Okay.
So
So you're repaving Frank John Road, they putting in the sidewalks. Is that going this year, next year?
So in the plan, I think we have it in starting to do engineering in 2024 and 2025 for design engineering, and then in 2026 is when we plan on construction.
Then what about the at the east end of SR 14?
That I believe is in there for design in 2027 and construction in 2028.
So you're taking public comments now.
Comments about the projects, correct?
Okay. Or was there any design that I never actually saw a plan or a design of how it's going to look?
So for Frank John's, there are just a couple of conceptual plans. I could probably pull them up.
You need a bigger.
We just got this. This was huge. So for Frank John's, these are kind of, again, just broad
Okay, so
concepts.
That's all you have so far.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. No, no. And then, for the east end, this is the first phase. And again, I think I said this is, further out in the plan. So yeah, 2027 to 2028. And this is just moving the retaining wall back to add visibility and add delineators. We know that there's additional outreach that needs to happen on all of these. And also on this one, it needs to be coordinated with WashDOT and the property owner. So, right, yeah.
So I'm just wondering, how much are you, I mean, I'm opposed to it, and how much do you plan to take, or, I guess that's fine.
That would be negotiated with WashDOT because it's their right of way. The challenge that we have right now is the lack of visibility around that corner because of the retaining wall. And so it's a safety issue right now. People have to pull out outside of the crosswalk and kind of into the lane of traffic a little bit to see around that corner safely. And that's for both corners as well. I mean, this intersection is also a safety hazard. And so that's why we're trying to kind of do what we can to incorporate.
Do they plan to put a sidewalk there also?
There's a sidewalk already.
There is now, when they redesign.
I don't know. This is as far as
It's all
we've gotten. It's all
conceptual.
conceptual, so. Right.
But there would be opportunity for public input.
Oh, yes, yes.
Right, so it's
So,
not a done deal.
No,
The design is not a done deal.
Name and location, please.
Hey, I'm Carol Kelly and I live in Spadea, but I work down here in the Port Building. I'm the Open Doors Coordinator for Stevenson High School. And I know there's been a lot of discussion already, so forgive me, I don't really know how this all works.
Mhm.
But is it an ongoing discussion about closing off the road, you know, the access road down there by the Port Building? Is that going to continue to be researched or has there been a decision made?
That's been pulled out of the plan.
There was?
That's been pulled out of the plan already.
Oh, good.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
excellent. That's all I wanted to confirm. Thank you.
I have. What's open doors?
It's a credit recovery program for students that have fallen behind in their credits for one reason or another, and they still want to graduate with their cohort. We work through primarily Yakima Valley College to provide credit recovery. Yeah.
Bernard? Name and where you're from?
Yeah,
On the record.
Who are you, Bernard?
I am Bernard Versailles. I live on Cascade Avenue. And yeah, there's been a lot of activities regarding the Kanaka Creek underpass. And what I hear is that it's been canceled, well, removed from the plan. It's not delayed or postponed, or is that a clear removal so that we won't have to fight this battle over and over in the future every year and mobilize people? Is that a clear decision? It's not going to be considered as a trail in the future.
You don't like working with us, Bernard? This is fun.
I'd like to enjoy my retirement.
Well, yeah, so everything can change, right? Nothing is permanent. And I think everybody acknowledges that that is a mess down there and it needs attention of some sort. Now, if anyone who stands there and looks at it for more than 30 seconds will realize what a engineering challenge it is. It's challenging.
No, it's not. But
Well,
Keep going.
perhaps.
Let's let Bernard wrap up his comments.
Yeah,
And then
please,
we'll go from there.
I'll read my comments because I have written comments. I'd like to zero in on the Kanaka Creek issue. And we do appreciate that you reconsidered the project and pulled it out of the plan. And that was the will basically of the people who live on the waterfront, work on the waterfront, etc. So with the question I asked, I just want to make sure we can move to beyond that, okay? And if we can move beyond that, now what do we do? What's the viable solution for the road? Because there are other problems with that road, as everybody knows. And so the issue is that I looked at the option A and option B proposed, and I'm really concerned about the timeliness of the repair and the maintenance that is projected in your plan. Because as Liana stated, the workshop identified this one as the highest priority project considered. So I looked at option A and option B, and I was trying to line up really the priority with the timing and the level of spending. And I will get into that, but I have some concerns about it. So we urge the city council, the mayor, to provide sufficient and timely capital spending to take care of the issues that were raised by the community and everybody who need that road. So if you want to look at the current situation, it's pretty clear. Turn to page 54 of your package and look at the underpass. And that gives you the picture of the current situation. What you'll see is a road that has not been maintained and not been repaired, full of potholes that are deep for the cars. You can put that on the screen, that would be nice. Yeah, we can look at it all together. And it's a disaster, basically. There are trenches that are appearing. The original road that hasn't been maintained, it's being eroded on the side, needs repair, maintenance. The rest of the road has not been maintained properly neither, and it's full of deep potholes most of the year. And people try to dodge the potholes, and it's unsafe. Recently, about a week ago, somebody came and did push some dirt and filled some potholes, but it's soft things. And as soon as you drive into wet, soft soil, your wheels sink in again. And at the next rain, it will go back to full of potholes. So there's a desperate need for maintenance on this road. Okay, and so that's what everybody should agree to, and that's what everybody heard say that. The staff recognized that. On page 54, it says the street has rose to the top as a priority for improvement of the project. At the workshop, this project received a number 4, which was the highest priority of any project that was submitted. The public participation, which is usually pretty rare in this town, was overwhelming. Everybody was really sensitized to this issue. We got 151 signatures, and we had letters and public people coming, from visitors, from employees, from the whole community, opening to the need to keep the access, which I hope is something under the bridge, so to speak, at this point, and also maintain it and do some improvements that are needed, and not 5 years, 6 years from now, but as soon as possible, which means this year or next year, but let's do something. The city staff on page 54 further states the feasibility of reconstruction and realignment of Cascade Avenue to the current city standard is being evaluated. But planning and construction would take considerable time and expenses due to BNSF and ecology. Well, you should be aware that the community is not asking to reconstruct nor realign this road. It's looking at improving the road. And it's an old road that has been there for many decades, and meeting the new city standards may not be exactly, I don't know what those standards, because they were not indicated beyond the statement. But I could also point to other projects that are in your plan that do not meet or will not meet the meeting standard, without naming a few. If it's 20 feet wide or 22 feet wide, all these new projects are 12, 15 feet, and you would have to acquire wider ways, you would have to do a lot of things to make them, but they took precedence in your plan over the number 1 priority project that the community identified. So that's a big concern. On the positive side, the Woodbridge, it was repaired. It was repaired quickly and without any long delays. I don't know what the capital spendings were, but they were done. And so we thank the city for taking care of this project. And but we think the same approach responsiveness should be applied to the part that's under the bridge, which is really simple. Paul said it's complicated. It's very simple. It's a wall that has narrowed down to 12 feet, used to be 15 feet, that is eroding on the side because it hasn't been maintained. The most logical thing would be to pave it and reinforce, maybe put a little retaining wall, embellish the wall, make it look attractive, looks like a park or something, you know, and then have the creek running on the side. It's actually a point of interest having a creek, you know, and putting a mirror, just like Cascade Locks has done. Cascade Locks has a mirror. They have a 90-degree turn, so the what you call geometry is very similar to Cascade Locks, but they're not foregoing their precious access under the railroad to do something else. They're actually using it. And same thing with Beacon Rock. There's an underpass there, 30 feet wide, same dimensions than Stevenson, and 13 feet high. Stevenson is 11.4. They combine that with an enhancement to their park and trails. And that is something, some examples to get inspiration, but it's not an expensive, it's a very simple project, much simpler than any other projects in the area in terms of improvement. And most of all, it doesn't need to be a real line, or the current direction of the road can be accommodated. I'm almost done. Let's see here. So the last point I want to make is that the funding, since 1998, you were looking at this project. You had it as Kanaka 1 and Kanaka 2, and the funding was $400,000 for that project. Despite all the public comments and all the concerns about this, you're now reducing in your option A and option B the expenditures to $100,000 from $400,000 from last year, and then you're pushing the timing of that expenditure, which used to be last year 2022 and 2024, to now 2017 and 2028, 2027, 2028, 6 years from now, when you have really something that needs to be done as soon as possible. So it's a big concern. So bottom line, our conclusion and recommendation to City Council, the mayor, and the staff is to recognize that this road is desperately in need for improvements and maintenance. And instead of projecting only 100,000 in 2028, to do something in 2022, 2023, 2024, and something not 100,000, which is not enough to cover the cost of a road that's the length, it's the longest road of all the projects you have, but to at least project 400,000 and reinstate the amount of spending that you had in your prior plan. So I would highly recommend to go back to last year. You had 400,000 and the project was completed in 2024. That was what should have happened. It didn't happen. I don't know why you changed the plan and came up with something, but we wasted time, we lost time, and by doing that, the road is getting worse, and it's going to make it more difficult. But most of all, it doesn't need to be realigned. It's not an expensive project. It's a very simple project to do.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
I have 2 comments that were received as well.
Yes, Mary Rapar Stevenson. I sent some comments. They didn't get into your packets apparently, but I would like them entered into the record, and I'll make my comments too. Thank you, Bernard. That was great. We're a small community. We're trying to do the best we can with limited staff. And I don't think the city needs to take on longer term projects that would have us looking at upkeeping roads for the next 30 to 50 years with money we don't have. So I think we need to prioritize our roads, specifically those people who have lived here the longest and whose roads are not paved and who desire to have their roads paved, pave the freaking road. It's, if people pay their taxes, they should have their roads paved. And just because a new project comes along that might be more esoteric or what is the word I'm looking for? Something that somebody wants doesn't mean that that other stuff shouldn't be taken care of. The roads, some of the roads have fallen by the wayside. I think you all know, I mean, Lakeview Road. Now, I think it's still on the list. And I think it should be done like number one. Those people have asked for it. They deserve it. Just do it. Delray Avenue, I think it needs to be taken off the list. We don't need to spend $100,000 on a road that is not going to be built. If the developer wants a road to develop that 11-acre property, then he needs to put it in. And he needs to pay for it, and he needs to upkeep it for the next 30 to 50 years. Look at all the roads in Chinadir and some of our newer subdivisions. This city doesn't have the staff to take care of all of those roads as they deteriorate. And we're using other people's money to upkeep our roads. We don't produce enough money here to upkeep our roads. We need to start taking care of the things that we have and making sure that they're here for our future generations that live here and invest in this community. The Kanaka Creek underpass, although apparently it's been taken off the list, it should stay open, but it needs to be upkept. Now, we could put in a new bridge. That's a grant project. Move the bridge over away from the creek. Creeks now have rules about their riparian habitats. Well, that apparently wasn't an issue when this bridge was put in. But you need access for safety reasons, and people need to be a little more mindful, and situational awareness is a thing. And if you're on that road, you need to be paying attention, just like you are on any other road. If you're a driver with a driver's license or a walker, situational awareness. Yes, things happen, but people have some responsibilities for their actions. Sidewalks. At the workshop, we talked about sidewalks, and I made mention of right-of-ways. The public works director told me that we have all the paperwork that says where our right-of-ways are, but what we don't have is surveys for those right-of-ways. For example, you can't measure from the center line of most of our roads to get your right-of-way length or whatever width, because those center lines have moved and things have been added. So I would urge the city to put money aside to do surveys. Now, the Planning Commission will send you a recommendation that we do those on a programmatic basis, that every time a program comes along, we do a survey to find out where we are. I think you need to do the whole city. There must be surveys that can be put together in an overlay, a GIS overlay, so that everybody knows where the heck their property line is, where the right of way is, and what can be done. For example, Frank Johns Road, if a sidewalk came in on the east side of that road, people would have the sidewalk underneath their window, and people would lose their backyards and other things. So, and why it has to be on the east side, I don't know. Why isn't it on the west side? That's a question that has to be answered. And that applies to all sidewalks. People have come here to a rural community and suddenly we want sidewalks. Well, we should have a code of the West. If you come to a rural community, live in the community the way it is. Don't start bringing all the amenities that you left to come here and start demanding all those amenities. Yes, sidewalks are nice, but sometimes you don't get that, and somebody's got to pay for it. So the right-of-way survey, I think, is critical to future development. Going down, I'm going to skip a little bit. Going down to the roundabout at the end of Frank John's, there is a off-site mitigation project there that was done, and I believe that was for Chinnedeer, if my memory serves correctly. Now, I don't know how you're going to work your way around an off-site mitigation project for an off-site mitigation project. I don't know if the Department of Ecology will let us do something like that. So that has to be looked at. Whoever did, when that revetment wall went in, DOT was responsible for that. And they approved that crap. It was a horrible decision. It was badly engineered because if you're going up Frank John's from 4T, you're going uphill right there, and it's a very brisk uphill off of 4T. Now, I don't think you have any line of sight problems. It's just that there's more traffic now because we have Chinnedeer, and there's just way more traffic. Frank John's is going to be used more. That is a realization that when Chinnedeer was approved, it was mentioned, but you know, Chinnedeer was Chinnedeer and 80 houses, and we're just going to do something beautiful in Stevenson. And so we have more traffic. So I think those kinds of cost benefits should be taken into account before, not after. Now we're playing makeup with everything. Columbia Street alignment, I don't think that's needed. You can make it a two-way, just make it only a right-hand turn off of Columbia going east if you don't like the alignment, but why spend money on that? I have proposed, and I know that there are feasibility studies to this. I think our fire station needs to go there on that corner. That would be great for our downtown. It would bring the fire hall into prominence, and they would have total access to 2nd and 1st Street and drive-through bays. Why we have to put it on a lot somewhere on Rock Creek that's going to cost us $800,000 to upgrade to usability, I have no clue. But sell that lot to the person who wants more property, like Angie was saying. And finally, we should take care of what we already have. Don't go looking for something new when you have to take care of what you already own. When you build a road, it's yours for 30 or 50 years, maybe 100 in some cases. I think we need to get a little bit more realistic. We're not spending our money for the most part. We're spending other taxpayers' monies. And we need to be mindful of that. Are we spending it because we want it or because we need it? Needs are one thing, wants are another. So I appreciate all the hard work staff is doing, but there's only so many staff. And we need to be mindful of how their time is used and to the benefit of the entire community, long timers and short timers. Thank you.
Is there a comment?
Yes, Julie Mayfield. Julie May, sorry. Julie May sent an email in to council and also asked to be read out loud. So in reading the updated tip information sent out in the packet, I'm concerned if the council does not direct the city for added solutions tonight, the city of Stevenson and all those who may use this route on foot or by vehicles may lose out on important funding for improvements and or saving it altogether. This would be very unfortunate. And this is with regards to Kanaka Creek Underpass. I've only since last night been able to read the fully updated points on the entire tip being presented for a vote by council and fear the issues surrounding keeping the underpass open may miss an important deadline for funding if something is not added tonight. I also fear the summary of comments on page 52 are diluted and actually could be seen as misleading. I do believe my specific comment is counted only as why to keep the route open under safety, while I would argue that my name on the submitted petition is repair and maintain in addition to my specific vote of why. I would also venture to add that every commenter should be counted as maintain, repair, improve, in addition to keep open, as it is not safe currently and should be improved, then maintained as such. Please consider that there were 148 commenters who are stating this needs repairs, improvements, and maintenance in the budget now. Please, dear city council members, do not miss this important deadline to adequately fund this poorly maintained city road without adding more funds tonight. There is urgency in this timeline, and you can right now fix this. Passage on this road is currently unsafe and needs to be attended to immediately for the safety of all who use it now and or in the future. As a side note, this repair, improve, and then maintenance is not a cumbersome realignment project. That is not what is on the table now. Thank you for this consideration. Sincerely, Julie May. From Connect.
All right.
And these comments I'll also upload that were sent in into the minutes.
Okay, I don't see any hands on the Zoom meeting. Okay. Any other comments?
I would just add that we've been asking for a bathroom downtown for years, and it still hasn't happened. Maybe it will, but it seems like if you listen to any consultant, travel consultant, the first thing people do is look for the bathroom when they visit the town. So I would maybe it should go in the overlook or somewhere, but there should be a bathroom accessible, which is of public interest.
Yeah, thank you.
Sheriff's office, 24/7.
27, there's one? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
The sheriff's office has one 24/7. They
Right.
keep it very clean.
Close public hearing at 6:52. Thank you all very much for your comments. Additional council, go ahead, council. You guys have thoughts?
Oh, I was just gonna say with the Plan B, like Julie was saying, do we set funding aside now for the underpass? Is that how that works?
So that
Okay.
will come in the budget. So right now, this is setting the plan, and what that plan does is it directs staff to go forward and find funding and line things up for the budget for next year. There are a couple of grants. I know TIB, they're due September 9th. And so typically what it is all the grant applications are due typically by the fall, and then it goes to the state legislature. And we'll know by summer of next year.
I do have a comment, because since council met last time, I called up here. I tried to come to the meeting, I couldn't make it, but I read the notes and I talked to a couple of the staff. And I've read all the public comments and the emails that have come in as well. And this is what I see, the difference in option A and option B is option A, we're saying we want to bring everything that the city is responsible for up to a certain level, right? And we talked about that. Was a major thing that came out of when we went down to when we all met as the retreat, right? Was one of the major things we wanted to do was bring everything that the city has, the infrastructure and anything that was maintained by the city up to a certain standard. And I feel like that's what A says it does. And then if we go to B, it says, well, we no longer have that. We pick and choose certain ones that we're going to do, but some of the stuff just falls off. Like, I believe there's 4 things that fall off. It's not just Del Rey that's taken off. There's other projects that are taken off that are not up to what the city and the public works director and the staff have said as what we're trying to do as a city, bringing it up to a standard. That's what I see out of it, right? And we all agreed that this is what we're trying to do, is bring the city up all the way across the board with infrastructure, bringing it up to a minimum standard for everyone that does pay taxes, that does live here. Anyway, my leaning would be that we need to try and stand behind what we said we're trying to do, which is bring all of the infrastructure in the city. Again, we can't do it all at once, but we're trying to bring it all up as we can within the finding of funds and the grants and what we can do with the money that we have to the standard that we've tried to set. So that's my comment on that.
Yeah, even if we had completely unlimited resources. And there are some projects that would just be the lowest priority and should be. Delray is a good example. I have always been of the position that that would be, as long as it's open to the public as a footpath, good enough for now, right? And I'm also of the thought that if we're not willing to address the infrastructure that we have, these roads and so forth, maybe we ought to just sell them. Just if it's a piece of property that's undeveloped and we're not willing to be responsible for it, we should own it. So put it up for sale. And that would go for things like Delray. If we're not willing to maintain that, get rid of it. As far as that underpass goes, I think that taking it off of this plan is essentially kicking the problem down the road. Yeah, we can bring in a load of gravel. All right, that'll work for this year. Well, maybe not even this whole year, because we have affectionately called that road pothole road. How many times have I said we need a load of gravel down on pothole road? I mean, once a year I'll say that in these meetings.
Why not pave it?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Why in the plan, Kanaka 1 and Kanaka 2 were paved. 300,000 to pave it by 2024.
Bernard, you've had your time.
I know.
Yeah.
You've had your time.
Yeah, and I think that paving it is, yeah, it's a good option, but in order, well, the picture's not up there anymore. We all know what it looks like. It's a mess. Paving it as is would be a 1-lane road going under that bridge.
20 feet.
Regardless, there's not a lot of it. I'm all for paving. I'm okay with that. I'm good with that. I think that long term, however, even if everyone in this council were to say, everyone in this room were to say, to hell with that road, we're never touching it again. The next council might change their mind and say, we need to redirect and rebuild and change everything. So I can't make any promises that will never come up again. You know, I might be dead and gone when it comes up again, but it will come up again. I'm pretty sure of that. But yeah, my position is if we own it, we should take care of it. And if we're not willing to take care of it, we shouldn't.
I think that's what everybody's saying now, needs to be maintained.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is unacceptable.
And so is a load of gravel. A load of gravel is unacceptable.
It is for,
Gravel.
even just a basic paving of that single 1-lane portion that's a Band-Aid. A load of gravel, is that good enough for this summer? I mean, or do we need to get the paving trucks down there tomorrow? We don't have the resources to get the paving trucks there tomorrow, but maybe we can get them there in a few months. Is a load of gravel good enough until we get those paving trucks there?
Better than nothing.
It's gonna have to be.
Better than nothing. Yeah, it's all we got at our disposal right now. So we could do that.
And a few rocks on the side too, so that it doesn't crumble.
Yeah, the erosion is always going to be an issue there until that is really rearranged. Always.
I have a question for Carolyn on this. Is it, I know that when it comes to streams, when it comes to creeks, when it comes to ecology and different things like that, there's a lot of rules and there's a lot of things that we have to be careful of. So what's the feasibility of even doing, I mean, I don't even know what the feasibility of going, okay, well, as the council said, you know, we're trying to, let's just pave it. Let's just put a wall in, let's just do, there are things that have to happen before that even gets to that point. Is that true?
Watch Ben.
Or Ben, either, I don't know.
Probably a resident.
Sorry, I was trying to figure out.
Yeah, I've
about
done a
this,
number of fish passage
right?
projects in
Yeah.
my life, so
Okay,
that's
so that's-
absolutely up my alley.
Okay, that's what
But that being said, that's why we have some money in here for it to be evaluated
Right.
by an independent third party. so they can tell us.
That's what I'm
But
saying.
it's
not
a
just
fish bearing stream. It's got multiple jurisdictions that, will be coming into play. Unfortunately, the city cannot put a bunch of rocks in it. We'll get fined to hell. But, yeah,
That was my
someone
concern,
else
is
puts
I
a bunch
understand
of rocks
what
in
everyone's
it,
like,
they
let's
probably
fix
wouldn't.
it. But the
I'm
answer
sure
isn't
everyone remembers, the Rock Creek slide.
Mhm.
And we put material into Rock Creek and we've gotten a lot of trouble for that. This would be of a similar
Right.
situation. Those that remember that.
Get a fish biologist and.
That was my thought, was there's more to it than just go, hey, sure, let's fix it, as in the next time we have a paver out, let's just fix it and throw a wall up down there. There's more to it than that, or we will get ourselves in a whole nother problem. And so,
The clearance, so that sign says 9 feet, 4 inches. And it's a tight fit right now. Big trucks can't use that. No,
they get directed there by GPS though.
right? They do. And,
At this
and
point, we're all
you know,
speculating as
Yeah.
people who are not experts.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
so-
Absolutely, it's out of my purview. I'm trying to get the
Yeah.
knowledge that it's accessible to me.
Yeah,
And so
And
I
I'm
walked
hap-
it today.
I'm happy
by
to
the way.
speak on it, but,
Right.
it would probably be more appropriate to, hire an outside consultant
Right.
for this project specifically, given the, interest in it.
And there is truth to the fact that it's not gonna, like, well, it was graded. It absolutely was. And they, the deep potholes, because I work down there, so I've driven my car out of there and had to weave in and out of the potholes that were there before, and we graded it, and yeah, it's eroding again, like today, underneath the bridge and parts of where some of those potholes are coming back, because that's just, there
Must be
does need to be
summer
more
weather.
to it. I'm not saying there doesn't, but what I'm saying is that there's more to finishing a project than
If
just.
you
going,
don't
yeah,
have optimum moisture content in your material, when you compact it, it doesn't stay compacted.
Right.
That is a shaded area as well as a low spot in the road,
Mhm.
and we've had a lot of rain.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
it is a challenging road to maintain. It's a
Absolutely.
gravel road just in general. But
Sorry, I was just trying to make sure.
no, that's it, and that's a great point. And I just want to make sure that I'm being extra mindful, as I speak on this issue, because it is, something where there are a lot of opinions and a lot of concerns. And so probably would be good to have
Yeah.
an outside person, weigh in.
So I don't understand what we're doing here. So we're talking about the TIP, but then also some very specific projects, and we're only given an option A or a B. So how do we move forward with this, and what are we trying to move forward? I don't understand.
This is approving a 6-year plan.
Right, I know that, but we're having all these
So I
conversations
agree,
that are-
I agree that we are getting down into the finer points, but there are 2 options presented to you.
Yeah.
One of them includes all of the unpaved roads, and the other one, just some of the priority ones.
Yeah.
That have been, let's say, influenced by those that would say, I don't want one.
that would be impacted by it, yeah.
And the reason why I did an option A and B was to make it easier. You can also make changes.
Okay, yeah, I
Yeah.
see that as just, or changes as discussed.
2 other just points of clarification. So in option A, there's a $50,000 just in the paving gravel roads line item. That's for general preliminary engineering. So to get a better handle about what it's going to take for each of these roads. In option B, there's preliminary engineering for each project. But the point, well, maybe it's, yeah. But the point was that you adopt this 6-year plan every year. Clearly, there are things about this 6-year plan that are going to change in 2028. And that $50,000 investment that's here will help you change those and prioritize or reprioritize how some things go. If you choose that route. The other thing is just a really jargony clarification between maintenance and improvement. And so you are adopting a TIP, a transportation improvement plan, and that would mean adding to improve, you're adding a lane, you're adding a turn lane, you're adding a sidewalk, pavement, Maintenance is not part of this budget that you're adopting. That's the load of gravel, that's sending the grader out. That's a separate item that you budget for.
But there is a component in the maintenance in the upgrade. and We talked about that earlier. If we don't pave some of these roads, it's the ongoing maintenance instead of an improvement, and then we're done with this patchwork of maintenance.
We bring in a load of gravel down here once a year for the rest of our
Yeah.
lives.
Right.
Yeah, and a long-term solution is the best solution.
But if you don't have a long-term vision and long-term capital improvements identified, you won't get anything. So this picture 6 years from now will be
The
worse
same.
because with 100,000, you're not going to take care of the problem. And
Yeah,
it's out of this
But it's also.
somebody's imagination that you can actually reduce your capital spending instead of increasing it.
So,
Like what the
Very
public,
clear. I know.
the public has talked. And you need to listen, as Mary said, to the public, your community.
We had two open sessions. We had an extended public comment period and we closed the public comment. You were very well spoken and you made your point very clearly. Yes, we are definitely taking a look at that, but we're looking at also at the grand picture of the entire 6-year plan. And as was pointed out, we look at this every year and every year we'll have a chance to modify our priorities.
So let me get this straight then. So we have this 6-year TIP that we're discussing now and hopefully reaching a conclusion of some sort tonight. But the change is that this has been removed from that 6-year TIP.
the closure of it has been removed.
Right,
from
okay.
6-year
So this
TIP.
is a whole, so what we do with this is a whole separate issue. It doesn't belong
The
in this
closure was a
discussion right
temp-
now for the
the
TIP.
Closure was a temporary
Yes,
measure. There
yeah.
was always gonna be an option to improve it to some,
Extent.
yeah, to some
It
extent.
was still on there.
Yeah, the closure was a preliminary way to address the geometric concerns with the roadway. That has been removed as a temporary option.
Okay, got it. And so-
Dave? Oh, sorry. I thought you were done. You had more thoughts before.
Well, I do.
Review.
So now that this is off the table for this particular vote right now, this is a separate project now. We're deciding whether or not we want to maintain, or I'm sorry, improve these roads that are in the plan or scratch that altogether. Right?
That's the
Or
difference
not.
between A and B.
Yeah, exactly. So where does Delray fall in this? As part, that would stay on as part of the improved?
Del Rey is on A, it is not on B.
Okay, so I'm with Paul. I mean, I don't understand why Delray is even on the radar. So could we approve A with the exception of Delray? I mean, you know, it's saying we can make adjustments here.
So one quick, I know Dave had his hand up for, but so Del Rey right now, in option A,
Yeah.
is slated for, I believe, 2027.
Right.
Or
It's one of the lower
2028,
priorities.
2028.
Yes. one of
Like
the
it is,
lower
like it
priorities.
is as
Yeah.
low a priority as you can get.
Yes, right,
Between now and 2028,
yes.
we can go, look, this doesn't even make sense. We need to.
But why
sell
can't
it.
we say
need
that
to-
right now? Why can't we just say right now?
Because
it
we
doesn't
still
make
own it,
sense?
and right now, we're saying any gravel road that we own, we want to have on the plan to bring up to the standard that we have for roads that we own.
Right, but that road is very different than any other road. It doesn't make sense to have a road right in front of somebody's home and driveway to me, and then it ends right there.
So that's what H and H is. It's a
H&H
road
is
and
on here.
there's only one
As
house
well.
on that road.
Oh, that road, yeah.
I
We
mean,
have lots of time to
Yeah,
evaluate
right.
each of these roads.
because they're all very unique. Dave, would you like to speak?
I would like you to speak.
Well, here's my thoughts on it, and I've been known to kick the dog a time or two. We have in Plan A and Plan B, we both have good plans there. But again, reiterating that next year, we can go in and we can remove one of these if we don't like it. If it doesn't fit the particular scheme of where we want to go with infrastructure and everything else, we can remove Del Rey at that time. Quite frankly, I don't understand. I've been sitting here and listening, and I understand all of the concerns and everything, But all this is a plan to move forward. We have the opportunity to make the changes as we go. We're not locked into it. So, you know, spending, I appreciate all of the time that we spent in taking the public comments, because I think it's critical that we understand where our citizens are coming from. But that doesn't mean that we have to lock into those particular ideas right now. One of the concerns that I have was the maintenance and the ongoing maintenance. And Ben has addressed that the maintenance of these roads is a separate issue to the projects like, for example, chip seal or things like that. Whereas going down onto Cascade Avenue and having a contractor come in, grade it, maybe lay some new base rock down and put, 1 inch minus on it to give it more stability, that might be an option as opposed to paving right now. So there are things that we can do within the current A plan and still be flexible enough to be able to do the things that we need to do for long term, possibly bring all of the roads up to par, and which would take Delray. And Annie, you're concerned about Delray. Maybe next year we decide, okay, Delray isn't part of this circus. It's not that monkey we don't want anymore. We're going to get rid of it and take it off of the plan. It doesn't matter at this point.
It does matter because we've had this conversation for 2 years now that I know of. And Paul, I'll bet this has come up for the last 6 years you've been on council. So at what point do we say, okay, let's stop kicking it down the road and actually do something about it?
So I think that's also the fundamental difference between the lists of the past and this list that we're going forward with. Whereas, as Ben talked about at the last meeting, the list from the past was just a wish list.
Priority wish
Yeah,
list.
yeah.
Whereas this one's an actual plan of this is what we're planning on doing and the next step. So where this plan goes, yes, we're going to go apply for funding. We're also taking this plan and incorporating it into our capital improvement program, which looks further out than the 6 years. And it's a longer term program because we also have to address the infrastructure underneath some of these roads as well. And so that capital improvement program takes into consideration all of those aspects of infrastructure, not just the street. So this is just the transportation, and the timing of these then sets the priority for those other projects. Because if we want to pave the road in 2024, we better make sure we get everything done in 2023 so that when we pave it, we're not going to tear up the road the following year to do some water projects. So again, that's sort of where this is going as a whole concept, is that we're trying to make plans that we can implement versus it just being a wish list.
Right, but what I'm hearing though is that we still have the mindset though that yes, this is a plan that we're making to go forward, but we have these caveats where we really don't have to do it. So it's still kind of a wish list. It's not really solid sounding to me.
So what I think the other part is that it's a plan that actually assigns a dollar amount and gives some sort of firmness to a timeline instead of just this nebulous project. Not even a project, just this nebulous collection of
Right,
thoughts.
yeah, right.
Where this is something that we say, all right, if we're going to do this in 2027, we have to reverse back into the timeline and make sure that, like just like Anna said, we're making a big deal about our capital improvement plan. That we don't want to be that city that tears up a brand new road because, oh, by the way, there was a sewer improvement plan that we didn't fold in. So yeah, so this is a much more attainable document than what we've dealt with in the past.
Are you referring to plan A or plan B or just?
In general,
In
just the
general.
fact that we've gotten to something that actually assigns dollar amounts to certain buckets over
And
the next few
timelines, yeah.
years and gives us the opportunity to plan for the future as opposed to wishing for something to fall out of the sky.
And as you talk about planning, I mean, I think the projects in the first couple of years, so 2023 and 2024 are kind of the ones that we're more closer to realizing. And then the ones further out are still being developed. I mean, so as far as like, yes, there is always going to be some sort of nebulous factor with any plan. And those are the ones further out. As far as timeline and cost. I mean, so $100,000 for each of those roads was just a placeholder because we have not done any cost analysis on any of those. So, right, yeah, exactly. So,
And I would like to see us move forward with Plan A, but take Delray off. That's my gut feelings.
So even if a
Mine
project
too.
is taken off, it can be put right back on.
It'll be here in a year.
Yeah, we'll be right back here a year from now. If any given project is removed, we can put it back on.
Right.
As long as we own it.
Right, yeah, it's not dead.
well, I mean, I guess that's another question. So in the past, the way things got on here was someone from the public requested, I mean, that's how Del
That's
Rey
how
got on
we
here.
got on it, yeah.
Or it was an identified need through some other process. So to that question, then how would Del Rey come back on here? Would it be the property owners coming and saying, we want it back on? I mean, then that's something that we don't have now.
I
as
think
far
it
as
would,
projects getting on here.
for me, the purpose for the TIP is because these things, there is a reason other than a resident's whim to need it to be done. You know, there's maintenance issues. There are, you know, the ditches need to be dug, sidewalks need to be put in, there's something more than just a resident wanting it on or off.
Right, and just because it's in your backyard,
Yes.
you may be either for it or against it
Right.
because it's in your backyard.
Right.
That doesn't mean it's not beneficial or harmful for the entire city.
Yes.
And that's what we need to look at in this. It's not just whether or not one or two squeaky wheels are, you know,
Pushing for it, right.
pushing for it. We need to look at the benefit of the whole city long-term, not just now.
Including the undeveloped lots who currently have a potential access at Delray.
Mhm.
But they are not developed yet.
Right. So that's the beauty of, so if we decide, if we decide to go with Plan A, with the exception of Delray, if in the future it becomes an issue where it really does need to be on, because we're now needing to put in a longer roadway and sewer and, you know, whatever, then it makes sense to add it back.
Or if you just leave it on there, it's the lowest priority.
Well.
That's what we've done in the past.
Yeah.
And specifically with Del Rey, we've always said, we're keeping it, we're just putting it on the bottom.
Yeah,
Well, but see, the tenor of how these priorities were even, how we even came to this was we would like to make sure that all of our gravel roads are up to a standard. Now, obviously, with notwithstanding
Except
the
for that
idea that there are some roads that even are already paved that probably wouldn't fit standards. So and obviously we can get in the weeds on that concept of a standard. If we're gonna make the commitment to pave roads, then that is how we got on this list, is because the city doesn't want to maintain a gravel road anymore, wants to improve that road and get away from constantly maintaining and dumping gravel and grading and all of these things. So in the past, projects were brought forward as someone from the community said, we should do this. And then so we will factor that in, as well as the city has some responsibilities too, so that we can move away from maintaining gravel roads.
do we maintain Delray? I mean, what is the cost to the city to maintain Delray currently?
There's so many unique factors about that road.
I know.
Part of the fact is that it's not even used as a road. There
Right.
hasn't been a car on Del Rey in 50 years.
Right.
So that's different than H&H
Right,
or the
that- yeah.
underpass
Mhm.
or
Right.
say
Yeah,
Prosper's
it's
Road.
very unique.
Mhm.
But does the city, do we actually spend any money on maintaining that road? When it's not in use, I mean, is there any maintenance that needs to be done to it?
Or on Holly Street.
I think we paved them, or I mean, they plowed them,
Yeah, problem.
Up to
So-
the path, because it's just a path at this
right,
point.
Mhm.
but It
Well,
has
it's
our
actually
name on it.
maybe one
It's a
driveway.
blue sign.
Well,
Well,
and-
it's ours.
Yeah.
And we have to make sure that we have a special plow to plow the gravel roads as well. I mean, so that's
Right.
another, as we work to streamline our fleet,
Yeah.
we are looking to get rid of one-offs as well. And so if
Eliminate
we
the need
can,
For unique equipment.
right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So again, if we have standard roads, that means we can have standard equipment.
Mhm.
Is the portion of Delray, I don't remember, right in front of that house there, they're really the only part of it that is substantial right now.
Far in down by the school, there's like a bowl.
A little bulbous there,
Mhm.
but is that gravel, right, this part right here, is that gravel? Okay, it is.
Mhm.
So, and now paving just that portion would only benefit one house.
Currently, yes.
And undeveloped property.
Currently it's one house and I believe, and there's.
But if we
certain
paved it
amount.
up to the guardrail,
Right, right.
because let's face it, it's the portion beyond the guardrail.
That is the issue.
That is the issue.
Mhm.
The squeaky
Yeah.
wheel doesn't care about.
The
portion.
property owner also that lives on that gravel road also requested it not to be paved.
Even his driveway.
Even his
The
driveway.
new owner?
Yep. And same with H&H. So from my perspective, if you're not gonna do Delray, why then don't do H&H?
Well, I guess then the next question is these residents are gonna be here forever. And so do we do it for, the individual residents that are on that road right now, or for the future impact that gravel or paved road will have on the entire city?
And the reason Delray is different than H&H is there's, well, it's unique in several different ways.
Well, and
And that
people
was
use it,
outlined a little bit in the packet for sure.
people use it as a walking path.
Yeah.
And so if we were to pave it, we would also propose paving that path.
And so if those undeveloped lots become developed, then that has to be continued then, the road. The
So wasn't
gate.
the original plan was to pave from the west up to the west side of
Oh,
the area, not this east side.
got it.
So the other sort of sticking point that becomes challenging again is, current development that's substandard. And how do we bring all of that up to standards? Well, we have a bunch of properties that unless they do a short plat or a subdivision, they don't have to do any frontage improvements at all in order to get access to their property. And so unless council changes the standard to require frontage improvements upon a building permit, that would mean that the person that builds a house on a lot, if they don't have a sidewalk and if they don't have a street in front of that lot, then they would be responsible for building that street and sidewalk. Right now, we don't have that. So they would just be able to build their house on a gravel road as it exists right now. And so, again, kind of going on with how do we want to bring our,
Not only as it exists right then, there are trees in the middle of Delray. If somebody bought that and constructed right there, there's nothing that the public works standards do to address. Do you just do travel lanes around the tree? Do you remove the tree? There's no guidance that can be provided for that. There's nothing about paving. There's nothing about depth of gravel. There's nothing.
so
Sorry.
It's not a development.
Right. So again, part of council's role is to set that policy, to have that future vision for not just the current residents, but for all residents and all properties. And so that's kind of where A is setting that policy and B is not, in essence. I mean, B is just keeping it as we have been going. Which, as we've discussed, is not the direction that we want to continue in. So that's just the fundamental between
Right.
A and B. And so from my perspective, if you start taking some of those unpaved roads off of A, then just go with B,
Right.
because that policy isn't set.
So the
There is a
list
policy.
There's
of
no policy.
roads that would be taken off, that would be Ash, Delray, the H&H, Holly, Naka Creek Underpass.
That's it.
It says on
That
the-
goes off. That's already off.
There's 4.
Closing it is.
Does Lakeview and Maple come off?
So up on the screen right now is option B. So you have Lakeview, Ash Alley, Holly, and Kanaka.
Those would be A.
Those, yes,
So Maple would not be, and Del Rey.
Proper.
Maple, Gropper, H&H, and Del Rey are all.
Why is Holly on there?
Holly is on there because the cemetery district requested that it be paved in their neighboring property owner.
Where's H&H? I'm not familiar.
It's next to Holly.
Oh.
One block down.
I guess it's,
With
to
one
me,
house.
Holly is a dead end street. It dead ends, literally dead ends at the cemetery. And the property owners, that are on the east side of that can also access H&H. So I don't see why we should be paying $95,000 to pave a road that goes 200 feet to the cemetery, other than to make a parking place for them.
Good thing we've got a $50,000 line item for evaluation.
Yeah,
For
no
all of
kidding.
these. And we.
Yep.
And that's it. If we leave them on the plan, we can use we can evaluate them and then readdress it next year.
Third-party evaluation.
I like to remind, we don't even have like a minimum standard that we want to.
Right.
We have
Right.
this, we have the standard, these city standards, but we don't have like our true like minimum standard. So we still have some work to do here.
So I think that's the solution, that we go with Plan A as is. We use that $50,000 to have an outside consultant evaluate it. And we
And I
look
feel
at,
like as a council and as we have the evaluation, we have more information, we need to come up with, this is the minimum standard for things we own as the city of Stevenson.
and once we have
We
that
got a blue sign, what
information,
is that? What's
hopefully
that
a year
mean?
from now, we'll be able to reevaluate it. and pick and choose
That's
that.
that's my opinion too.
What is the
That's-
evaluation gonna tell us?
Maybe we want to kick Holly out. Maybe we want to kick Del Rey out. Maybe we want to do something else with them. But
So it would still be inconsistent then, potentially. So there really isn't, there won't be a policy then.
Well, it'll be an outside, yeah.
Plan A minus Del Rey, maybe Holly. Maybe H&H, yeah.
Well, then we'll
what if
Well,
we
then plan B.
do, but then we're not
Right.
acknowledging them as infrastructure that we currently own. I mean, Mary Parr spoke to it, like, take care of your stuff, like, take care of your stuff. And if that is, I need to put this in a garage sale because I really don't want it. I've been hanging on to it, but I really don't want
That's
it.
my point. If you're not gonna take
Then-
care of it, get rid of it.
Then we can do that. But if we take it off this list, then it just becomes another like abandoned child sitting in the corner. That's like, no one's paying attention to me, so I'm gonna hang out over here. I'm not on anybody's list anywhere.
I like
When I
also what
first-
Mary said about how, people move to this rural area and then expect to change it. When we live in a rural area. So there's both sides of the street here. It's an argument to be said for both angles.
And
Wait a minute,
Go ahead.
making a road, like a paved road.
Well,
I
yeah.
think that we
or
can
the
say that
sidewalks
people that
on
live here
Lasher
would like
for
that
the
too.
kids.
Right.
Nobody goes down Holly.
The city standards don't even have a gravel option, like private roads are supposed to be paved. Like
Right.
there's not even a gravel option in our standards
At our
currently.
retreat, we all agreed.
I know,
that
you're right,
Infrastructure
you're right.
was super important.
Yes.
Made the list.
I'm ready to make a vote. Are is anybody
I
else?
would
gonna say
love
anything?
to entertain
I'd
a
love to
motion.
hear what it's gonna
Okay.
be. So where is it?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
with the motion.
I
is
make a
to-
motion to approve the 6-year transportation improvement plan, option A, as presented.
I'll second.
There is a first and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Just feel like we should take off Del Rey.
We will or possible, possible.
We'll be having this
We
conversation
have
for
some
12 years.
information.
All right,
We'll
because
that
we have,
information.
remote, well, actually, first off, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I,
And Dave.
Nay,
All right, so that's 4-1.
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
Do you mind if I just say one more thing, Scott?
Ready?
Mary, you had said that you were thinking that like you should be a higher priority. It's next year.
Like, you.
Like you.
Like it's next.
Did I say at least
Yeah.
one?
You know, you said like, It's
No, it's
next.
Yeah, it's
It's next.
2023.
I saw that.
I'll send Dave a bottle of champagne.
And as a follow-up, our last meeting, there were some comments about culvert being plugged in some potholes on Lakeview. We did go down and look at it.
Was Lakeview the gentleman who was here last time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I was trying to figure out what street he was on. Okay, thank you.
He comes to,
There's no culvert that's plugged.
Yeah.
And there's no potholes in that road, just,
As of right now.
yeah, as of right now.
Okay.
So I do plan to follow up with him and request that if he does ever see his culvert overflowing, that he, or not his, the culvert under Lakeview overflowing, that he reach out to Public Works about that. But
So is it fixed now?
it was never, or we don't see an issue.
Oh.
Yeah, I've got photos of a wide
A lot
open
of water.
inlet, so,
All right, Carolyn, looks like you are up.
okay, wastewater.
Hey.
Yay,
Sewer plant
wastewater.
update.
Yeah, so they're for the
Hey,
wastewater treatment plant.
Good job working through a tough issue, guys. Celebrate that.
I will later.
we'll get the hate mail later.
Tonight, right now.
Wastewater treatment plant, they mobilized next week. They indicated possible groundbreaking the week of July 11th.
Wow.
But we're gonna get a firm date on that on Tuesday or next meeting.
So, I've
We could be with a golden shovel.
I have been probably a bit of a brat about this whole thing. 'Cause this has been,
A bit of a rat, he said, a bit.
most of us have been working on this. This city council, previous city council, have been working on this for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I want a picture moment, a cock-a-doodle-doo moment. So yes, whoever wants to come, we
Let me know.
will celebrate our new journey. Yes, it will be a golden shovel and we will have our pictures taken. We will talk to previous council members that
I
have
was
part
gonna
in this.
say, yeah.
This is a big deal.
And that's the
Yeah.
11th, is that right?
Ish.
Yeah. that's-
Yeah,
oh,
because I've been called to jury duty on the 11th, so hopefully either I will be excused from
You're-
that. or-
Yeah, I
You're
think
previously-
and Amy and Robert need to be
You're previously-
invited.
Yeah.
So this, taking, like to Ben's point, taking a moment to realize what a big deal this is. This is over $10 million and we finally get to put a shovel in the ground.
Nice.
So it's
Mhm.
Yeah, and this came to, I mean, it might have been my second city council meeting when Eric said, oh yeah, the sewer plant needs to be replaced. And we're like, wait, what? Yeah, it's old, the ecology people said they're gonna find us, go. And we're, what? We had no money, no plans, no
It's a very courageous
foresight.
journey
I
you
mean,
went
there
on.
was no warning whatsoever. None. Hopefully,
I feel like
Okay.
Robert should be here.
we invite them.
I was gonna say, but the issue,
I didn't.
the issue wasn't new, right? It was just
Yeah.
never dealt with,
Yeah.
yeah.
So big deal.
Yeah.
Big deal.
Sorry.
No, I mean, that's great. Similarly, Main D got paved. Did
Mhm.
everybody notice?
Wait,
Main D
say
got
what?
paved?
What's that?
Main D Loop Road.
Ah,
That's
nice.
my
driveway.
I gotta go up there. Nice.
Still have things in the driveway.
So tell us the next steps at the plant. So we've been doing collector work. No,
The next steps of the plan.
at the plant, okay, no, that they all kind of feed together, but what's the next step at the plant?
I think I'm missing the question. So Main D's almost done. It just says, punch list items, the collection system set of projects, which is the main interceptor project that's on Rock Creek Drive. The pipes in for the most part. They still have some lateral work to do and they're gonna replace the pump station as well as force main that goes across the bridge. That will run into the new wastewater treatment plant. They're breaking down mid-July. Is that my answering?
Yep, so far.
Okay, yeah. So that's,
Or the fish alive, the goldfish that you put in or whatever.
they are,
But,
yeah,
okay.
the 6 fish
Nice.
have been observed in the
Nice.
clarifier, which is very exciting, so. Yeah, that's all I have on wastewater stuff, unless anyone has a question.
And we did submit our first round of reimbursements for both the EDA and the ecology loan, so we should be seeing how those go.
Nice.
And I do have a contact now to reach out to for the $2.5 million direct appropriation, because it will still be a couple months out before they have any sort of idea of what the process is. But at least have someone to talk to about if I have any questions.
All right, thank you. So we're moving next month for planning commission member. Okay. All right, looks like you're up, Liana.
One other person, following up on the unbilled ADUs. They,
Houses.
yeah,
That was one of the big ones that was not asking about it.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. So, and they didn't, well, and I mean, they added a kitchen to their basement, not even trying to do it as an ADU. But it meets all of the need, it meets all of the definitions of an ADU, and it has independent egress as well.
So this was identified,
Initially.
yeah, long ago, but they're just now coming forward. It's not like we've identified a new,
Right, yes,
Issue.
yes, yes.
They
correct.
identified themselves.
yeah, one of the 10, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
We were finally able to connect and do the back and forth.
Okay, got it.
explanation.
So since we
Yeah.
approved all the others,
Mhm.
then it just makes sense to make a motion to approve waiving the back billing in relation to unbilled ADUs for the customers listed in the staff memo for a total amount of $7,371.86.
First and a second, any discussion?
I have a question. How many of these are you guys gonna
It's the
approve?
last one.
That was the last one.
Is there something you can put in a paper telling people what they have to do? And there's been a lot of waivers. How much money is that?
That was the last one, so.
It's the
I
last one that
know,
we'll
but
entertain.
why are they being approved? You know, did people do something? Did they know?
We did this, what,
They
3
didn't know.
meetings ago?
Yeah.
ADUs were pressed into service that weren't billed properly. So we could either make them pay or give them an opportunity to not.
It was the city that didn't build them when they were putting these in. It was something we didn't say you owe this if you do these things. This was just not built.
And it also was happening during COVID when some people weren't working and it was gonna put a burden on them that they couldn't.
Essentially what it is,
Yeah, it's a burden.
So we have first and second, yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
thank you. Carolyn,
Next,
type D
is-
right away permit.
Oh, perfect. Someone is along Roselawn. They put in some hedge. We got it as a nuisance complaint. I spoke with the homeowner. They indicated they were trying to provide some screening at the top. They're at the top of the hill. Pictures are in the
Mhm.
memo. So he would like to, or the landowner would like an option to get a right-of-way permit for those hedges.
With
Looked at it.
heights.
They're so small and he said he was gonna keep them cut short. It looked
They're
totally
small right
fine.
now.
What page? are you
Hold on a
on?
second,
Oh, there
I
we go.
missed that one.
Yeah, what page is the picture?
Oh, I see.
Oh, I know who it is. Okay.
Click on it.
So let me ask you guys this, let me ask staff this. So
Yeah.
when the cabin was an idea before, because they had to come and get a conditional use to have a drive-through. And the question came up, how do we know that this is going to be maintained? How do we know that this is going to stay in where it needs to be seen? And that was when it was decided that those conditional use permits would be recorded so that it would carry along, it would be attached. How do we know? So is this one of those things where the resident that initially complained will come in and say, remember that thing? And now it's bigger than it's supposed to be. How do we keep track of these Is it just in the right of way folder? And that's, it's easy to get to, and that's that. Like, how do we make
Can it
sure
be like
that,
that?
great
Just with
question.
on the
that they,
right of
that
way?
they follow the rules?
So which side of the street
It's
is
right there on the
this?
right-hand side, those little
Okay, those
short
are good,
bushes.
Mhm.
They live down below.
Yes.
And their driveway is like
Mhm.
everybody else
It's
there.
at Laurel, it looks like.
It is Laurel.
So
How big
that
is that
stuff
gonna
can-
get?
It can get.
That's what
huge.
my concern is, how big is this? Because hedges, how many times do hedges would go, well, this is it's beautiful when it's this tall, and then it starts to get.
So our rules on fences, I think is 6 feet, is it?
4 feet.
For a fence is 4 feet?
in the front yard.
Oh, on a frontage thing.
Mhm.
48 inches.
48 inches. Okay. So it looks like those are probably 36, maybe 37. Would that be, I mean, couldn't we put a caveat on this conditional use that says they have to be maintained less than?
Well, there is.
So right now
serious
it's 6 feet.
that-
It's 6 feet.
It's 6 feet right now is the condition in the current permit.
I understand what he's trying to do.
Yeah, it says right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I.
Well,
Well,
what
that's
probably
what
the
the
complaint-
neighbors are complaining about.
They
the
can't see
view.
down the view anymore.
Well, it's gonna affect their
It's gonna
view
affect their-
when they grow, when
When
grow
they
tall.
get that big, because they will.
And
They
now,
won't if you keep them
If-
trimmed.
If they're not maintained.
and
They're
they,
not
they
maintained.
could enter into a view easement agreement with that. That's-
He's already
understand.
said that he would keep it trimmed and they would not lose any view.
Yeah, but saying it and doing it are two different things, and he's not, a new owner may come in at some point too.
That's my question about.
Yeah.
Recording.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
a version of recorded.
It's a really interesting one that I don't have a full answer to because this is in a right of way. It's not associated
Right.
with real
Right.
property.
Yeah,
But
yeah, he
Look
doesn't
how
own
close it
that.
is to the road.
It's in the road, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it's
in the right of
basically
way.
like if he goes above 6 feet, we write a letter. Say, hey, you gotta keep this below 6
Remember
feet.
that
And
thing
he
that you
doesn't
agreed to?
do
We've
it.
got your
Yeah, he doesn't
signature
do it.
here.
Right.
And then
They're
we
gonna
say,
get
okay,
fatter,
well, we're
too.
taking them out because they're in our right of way and we can.
So what was
We're
the,
cutting them to 6 feet because we
the
can.
homeowner
yeah.
who put the shrubs in, did this person just not realize that he was within the right of way and not on his own property?
I think initially he didn't.
So my concern is if we just keep saying, okay, well, let's just, make an adjustment to this to make it work for this person. Are we
Well,
given the
it's-
impression?
It's a right of way permit. We understand, we, the president, understand that this is city property. May we use it as a mechanism?
Right, they're
But he's
asking-
It's not a
already
hard
put
and
it in.
fast rule.
Yes.
But he's already put
Okay,
it
so,
in.
So
all
we-
right,
so we
punitive,
deny
take it
the
out.
permit.
We say
Now
no,
you've got a
we can
permit,
take
put
it
it back in.
But so what I'm saying is for other people that might see this, say, oh, well, I'm just gonna ask for, for forgiveness later after I do it. Are we setting that kind of precedent? I'm just asking a question.
I think this
The option is
situation.
always to say no.
Yeah, and this
Mm.
situation is unique, like, prior to writing this, like, I went out and visited Figure 2 shows, it's on the
Mhm.
edge of of a steep
Mhm.
hill.
Mm-hmm.
It already meets our right-of-way conditions as well as like the standards of what that street would require as far as parking and sidewalk goes.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, there's really no reason that we would need or want that in the near future. So we just, someone else, it might be totally different, right? Someone else might be like, oh, well, we might want to put a sidewalk there in the next few years. And then we wouldn't grant it and we would say, yes, you have to pull them out.
And the
Right.
fact that they're on city easement means we could revoke, we could pull them out.
I think, yeah, the permit documents say that too.
So we think that as long as we have a height restriction
Which is already there.
and a width.
They get beefy.
I, this.
So there, I've got a question.
Query away.
So from having a small discussion with our fire chief, there's a residence down the road that has had fire and life and safety complaints about his bushes, and nothing has been done. So what is the city gonna do? Where do you draw the line?
But are those bushes in the city right away or are they in his backyard? Their backyard?
Not that answer, I do not know for sure.
Because
But maybe
in their backyard,
we,
there's not much we can do until somebody complains.
It is in their backyard.
So that's.
But
the
that's not city
difference.
right away. We don't have
This is just.
exact purview right away.
okay,
Okay.
Entertain a motion.
Where is it? Let's see. Hold on, I'm gonna get there. There we go. C. I would motion to approve City of Stevenson Type D right-of-way permit for 438 Rose Lawn to plant bushes within city right-of-way, ROW, with conditional upon maintenance within 18 feet of center line, height conditional upon maintenance within 6 feet of ground elevation, and removal at parcel owner's expense if issues with any city infrastructure is observed.
First and second. Any further discussion?
I guess it's not a bush width, it's width from sunlight, so maintain.
It could go down the hill as far as
Yeah.
it wants. It's keeping it away from center
Yeah,
line.
I misspoke earlier, so clarifying.
All in favor, say aye.
I,
All
Nay.
opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so 3-2. Good. How do we, can we get a thumbs up from Johanna that she got that?
oh, yeah, I,
I'm writing it down to Johanna if you miss any of it. Yeah.
All right, Carolyn, you're up again.
Uh,
Samoa.
This one's even more fun.
Hmm.
So, our mower is about at the end of its life, similar to our grader. Anytime we want to use it, we have to do some sort of repair. Then halfway through the day, it will break down. We have to do another repair. Additionally, this style of mower, the style we have currently is a tractor style, which means it has the wheels. So it can only be utilized on roadways to like maintain roadways. We have a number of cross-country water lines that we're currently unable to access because they're overgrown and haven't been able to be maintained. So I'm proposing that we purchase a different style of mower. It would be a less expensive purchase than to replace in kind. But it would be, we end up at 150, not to exceed 150. It will probably be not to exceed 100. With the trailer though, with the trailer. Oh, okay. Yeah, the one that we just got in that seemed like it would be the best. Well, so a number of different constraints were evaluated. We've gotten 5 or 6 different quotes from local equipment vendors, and many of them are very far out, October, December, Q4 of the season or of this year.
right.
So basically
Well,
the next year. by the
yeah.
time we
Yeah,
use it.
so it would be very, very challenging. And at some point could yield impossible to maintain our right of way if we don't purchase something now. So the option, so we're somewhat constrained by availability. That's becomes our major constraint, which in this case worked out okay. The middle of the road unit ended up being like 82 or 85. The other advantage is that it's a track excavator. It's like 2 levels up from the mini that we have currently. So in the off season, when we're not mowing, we'll be able to utilize it for other construction projects. Additionally, we don't have any way to lift some of our infrastructure. We have to borrow from the county if we need to like move ecology blocks or something heavy. And so this new machine would be able to provide that additional function as well. So it's a little bit more versatile. The one kind of major change, we would need to purchase a trailer because it isn't obviously as fast as a tractor would be. So we would have to trailer to the location to be maintained and then trailer back, which is just how it would be with this new, we change styles.
I don't suppose it could help with that other thing that we were gonna buy at auction that we missed out on.
Oh, the vac
That's
truck?
right.
No,
Yeah,
it's
that would've been
not,
cool.
totally different.
That would have been helpful.
Yeah,
We get an attachment for that.
right? Not the same.
Not a PTO attachment you put on there?
No. You know what? No. But it does
So-
come with 2 other buckets and
Existing gear is dead, dying.
yeah.
There's existing maintenance that can be done with this dying machinery. And it will be more versatile than what we have.
in the off season.
How old is the current one?
I think it's a 96.
Yeah.
96.
25 years.
Pretty new.
Yeah. Pretty new, yeah.
We bought it used in 2014.
Oh,
I believe.
okay.
Yeah, I don't recall. I had that as like a XXX. I was hoping you were gonna
Yeah.
yeah, 14.
Well, so when we were talking about it earlier in the week, it was like, Ed, I don't know, got just quick, and then Mark says, I fixed it. Okay, how long did that take?
He's good
Why are
for
you
that.
doing that?
Yeah.
No, he's like, I fixed it. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion if we're ready.
Do it.
Ready, do it.
Dave, did you have anything?
Yeah, I got a question. Is this, Leona, where's this at in the budget?
Equipment services. So I think I attached the budget for the equipment services where we're currently at. I actually did a like the kind of says it's 5-year, but in order to get where we're at this year currently, I had to do so it's 2019 through 2022.
Okay, but is it currently in the 2022 budget?
No, and so that's what the memo states. The reason why it's actually coming to council is because we need to have a budget amendment, and there wasn't time to do the public hearing notice for this council meeting. I will not be able to attend the next council meeting, and so August will be the next time we'll be able to have that public hearing, but we need to purchase it before then. And so that's why it's kind of coming to you as a separate item. Typically, it would just come in the form of a budget amendment, and then staff would do their due diligence for purchasing.
Okay, well, I've got a concern about it, and it's another 150 grand. You know, we just spent for the vac truck. Now it's another 150 grand for this, and
Get the back
We didn't get the
truck.
back truck, and it's different funds.
okay,
Yeah, the vac truck
But-
was
but-
gonna come out of the ARPA funds.
okay,
And did
but
you-
still, it was not something that was anticipated in the budget, and so now we're going out beyond the budget at 150 grand, and I got issues with that. So that's where I'm at with it.
Well, we also have a new director of public works too,
And a dead
so,
piece of equipment.
yeah.
Right.
And I can appreciate that. I appreciate what Carolyn's trying to do, but there's also resources that we have to work within. And we
Right,
have,
Go ahead, Dave.
and we have to be responsible for those resources.
Mhm.
And that's what they've been doing for the past number of years. They spent $5,000, I think, a couple years ago on a new arm. They've been throwing money at it year after year just to keep it going. And the question every year as we go through the budget cycle is, will it last another year? Do you need a new mower? Do you need a new truck? And so that's sort of where we've been at. And at the time too, it was also, I think they were continuing to kind of keep an eye on the used market. Well, nowadays, the used market is non-existent, and supply chain challenges as they are, we hope to, I mean, there's no parts to be had for this machine. And trying to get a new one's going to take time but I think we were lucky enough to find one that we can get in a reasonable amount of time. And so that's sort of the reason why it's coming in now versus why it didn't come at the end of the year last year.
And so what are we going to use on our city streets where the flail mower is needed?
Well, if we don't purchase this, if this is not authorized, we
No.
don't have anything.
No, if this is purchased.
It has a
Are we-
flail mower attachment to it. So
I
it will be-
understand it. It's a track hoe though, right?
Right.
And you're gonna be running a track hoe on the city streets with the flail mower attached as opposed to the
It'd be a
tire treaded ones.
It'd be,
Yep.
it'd be going out on a trailer.
But we would transport it via trailer to wherever it needs to go. And then once it gets there to mow, it will be, yes, tracks on the road. Rubber tracks on the road.
Does the county have equipment that does the same thing?
They do actually, this exact same piece of equipment, and they love it. They've stopped using their tractor because they like their track machine better.
Is that something we could borrow in lieu of buying our own? Is that where you're going, Dave?
Yes. You know, I think
They're in the
as we
season.
look at I think as we look at our budget, we are going to have to start looking outside the box. And rather than purchasing equipment all the time to do specific jobs, we need to take a look at maybe what's available out there to contract out. Number one, you don't have labor costs involved in contracting. You have a set cost per hour to run that equipment. But there's a lot of issues as far as hiring a contractor versus paying employees the hours, as well as all of the maintenance and upkeep on equipment that the city owns. So I think we need to take a really hard look at what we're doing when we start talking about purchasing major equipment like this. And I think go ahead, Paul.
When we hire contractors to subcontract work like this out, we're still paying labor. I mean, that cost doesn't go away. We're just paying somebody else to do the labor instead of our employees.
But it's time on getting it from the county.
And we still have to pay for it.
Oh,
And
for the county, you have to lease it. So what
it
about,
seems
and,
like it would-
and are there contracted vendors around here that we could be contracting with? Do they exist?
To do that.
Other
type of
than the
work.
county, yeah. Mhm.
I think that different, we would get that 100 grand so quickly for all the other things that we can use that thing for, not just mowing grass, moving stuff around in the yard,
completely.
trying
we'll
to
have
do
it-
it with somebody else's machine.
And when
Yes.
we need it in our timeline.
And we have it for, we have a 5-year warranty or 5,000, we have a 5-year, 5,000 hour warranty. So we're not looking at the same sort of labor cost to maintain a new piece of equipment as we are an older piece of equipment. And I think it's a great observation, Dave. And one of the things that I am working on now is looking at our equipment, because there's gotta be a sweet spot where, some amount of time we don't spend any money on maintenance. They're essentially maintenance free. We're under warranty. And then at some hours or years, that cost starts to go up, right? There's likely another.
That's right.
Yeah, there's likely another curve where, you purchase something here and the value of it starts to go down over time. I would expect there's a sweet spot where those two curves intersect, where you get your maximum value and you're still paying like minimum maintenance on it. And so my long-term vision and plan is to get us in a position where we're salvaging and we're getting money back, and we're not paying our guys to be mechanics, because it's not necessarily like a good use of their time, as you've shared. We need them to do other things. We need them to maintain our facilities. We don't need
Sure.
them to spend hours on maintaining equipment, because it doesn't take one of them. Like, it always takes two of them, and they got to go find parts, and it ends up being
Does this have metal tracks,
Rubber.
rubber tracks.
rubber tracks? Okay, Leon, a quick question for you. Where are we at with regards to a equipment repair and replacement program?
That's what I'm talking about.
So that's what we have. We have that equipment fund. It's a repair and replacement program. The way that, so with COVID, as a cost saving measure, we didn't purchase a truck for the past couple of years. And so basically that list has stayed static, with us just delaying the truck purchase instead of saying, okay, well, now we need to purchase 2 trucks. Okay, now we need to purchase 2 trucks and a mower. We did not do that. We just moved everything back a year.
Okay, all right.
Now, do we not contract with North Bonneville too? Didn't I hear that the thing took a dive when it was out mowing for Brian or Bone for North Bonneville? I guess what I'm getting at is, can we not also farm it out on our own?
Yeah,
Well, North Bonneville's in the same situation though.
yeah, but we
So-
mow for them, don't we? I think we mow for them.
No, it was just this, it was just a one-time.
Okay,
time.
but I
Yeah,
said, but
because
that
their
gives us the
machine-
opportunity to also make some money.
Yeah, maybe that is something that we can think about for the future, is how we can take these 3 governing bodies, North Bonneville, the county, and us, and do resource sharing.
There's a mechanism for that too. I would entertain a motion.
I would move to approve that $250,000 for the purchase of a flail mower and trailer.
Be clear, you said 150,000?
Up to.
Okay.
Up to 150,000.
Did you just steal that motion from me?
I second, Dave.
Oh. Look at how you work.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Manny.
You don't get paid anymore.
We have a first and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 You're getting the mower, dude. All right, next up, we have a personnel policy update.
So earlier in the year, we met with our insurance agency. We, every spring, we meet with them and we do an audit over some program or focus area. So this year it was on personnel. And so some of the changes that are within the personnel policy are reflective of that. A lot of it's between, I think, will and shall languages, and then clarifying the reporting for any complaints for discrimination. We also, the federal government is tightening some restrictions on CDL licensing, and it's flowing down, meaning that any person that needs to get a CDL, we can no longer train in-house nor with cooperation from the county. And so we have to send them out to training. In addition to all the other training that they have to have if they're a new hire. And so we did an evaluation of the positions, and the public works director position and the wastewater treatment plant operator positions do not require a CDL in any of the job descriptions, job duties that they have. And so it was removed from those positions. Any of the facilities or utilities maintenance worker still requires a CDL. And so we'll just need to be cognizant of that when we hire again. It would be, I think, a 2 to 4 week course, and I think $5,000, if not more, depending on where it's at when they start. And I think classes are, I know there's a place in Troutdale and Vancouver. So again, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And then what other changes? And then it was also brought up about Juneteenth as a city holiday. And so that is one of the other major changes in there. It's included as a holiday. It's a federal holiday. A lot of other organizations are taking it. The states, it's a holiday for the state. So it's included in there as well. And then the comp time calculation has also changed to where it used to be a maximum accrual of 40 hours. For some of the new hires, it can be challenging to and stressful to make sure that you have enough time to cover any obligations that you may have for sick time or vacation. And so this allows them to use their accrue comp time, but it won't exceed the vacation maximum accrual. So the combination of vacation and comp time accrual won't exceed 240 hours. And it will, and from a city budget standpoint, it will be paid the same because they'll still have to cash it out at the end of every year. So the city won't see any change in that. And any comp time accrual and use also has to be approved by the supervisor as well. So similar to vacation use, it has to be approved by a supervisor. But again, it just kind of allows some greater flexibility for new hires. I think those are the highlights.
Dave, are you okay with me making a motion? I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2022 395, revising the personnel policy as presented.
Second.
First and a second, any discussion?
Aye.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Ben.
Thank you for Monday. I also have a grants agreement for you to ratify. This is, as discussed in the last one, finalize the language with Department of Ecology for the scope. The budget amount is the same.
I move to approve ratification of the ecology grant. SEAS MPC-2123-STEV PW-00029 in the amount of $72,000.
Second.
Throwing money around. Dave.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, we do have some informational items in your packet for your perusal. Ben, you have a report for us.
I do have a report. Current planning activity is up. It's the springtime, it usually is, and it's up again. We've got some small land divisions that are out there, really infill development stuff. So 2-lot land divisions that are going on. Three of those right now. The subdivisions out there are filling up very quickly. So at some point, there's going to be no interest by current landowners in infill development, and there will still be a market for land divisions. So we do expect something to happen and to lead to discussions that will hit your desk at some point. Long range planning, we are looking at the shoreline public access plan. So with that, we will go out and recruit consultants to help us lead that. And so there will be a heavy public involvement effort and direct conversations with shoreline property owners about the alignment of trails. If they don't want it, we just won't identify it in that plan, and they won't benefit from the ease permitting process, and they'll still have to justify not providing it at the permit stage if any permit is requested there. But we'll create that budget for land acquisition so that you can start setting aside ways to realize the shoreline plan. So I want to kind of use that as a segue to talk about the transportation issues a little bit. Our regulatory systems are all built on fast growth areas where people are requesting permits, and when they request permits, there's some public improvement that needs to be done, and those public improvements happen quickly. We don't have fast growth here. We don't have a lot of permit requests, and so public improvements don't happen as quickly here. Not only that, our requirements don't require public improvements often. And so Liana brought it up, and I worded out then too, that your development standards only required if there's a land division. You don't require it at construction stage. So when we start looking at something like Lakeview or Delray or any of these other abandoned children, one of the reasons why they're abandoned is because no one ever required them to be paved to begin with. And then that becomes the status quo for that property owner. And that's what they know as Stevenson from the time that they built or moved in there. And so at some point, you guys really need to look at evaluating the policy. There are trade-offs for housing affordability. And that cost from going to an individual home. Right now, you're bearing it on behalf of all the residents when the improvement happens. So the other thing I want to talk about from your discussion about transportation improvements is you guys are really struggling with something, having this conversation every year. You have to say, what's our plan for transportation every year? And that's not your fault. We don't have a transportation plan. So we went out last year and we've got a good basis of data for traffic operations right now. You need to turn that into a transportation plan that takes a big, long look at what the road corridor of any particular road is going to look like. And so you can have a conceptual plan for Delray, or you can have a conceptual plan for what Loop Road should look like in 20 years. And then in the budgeting process, you're just picking a cut sheet like Leon's developed for any particular project. You're picking that cut sheet out, putting it in and putting a budget to it to do in the next 6 years. And so that is a gap within the city's planning system. And you're paying the price for that gap every year when you deal with these.
So why don't we have a transportation plan? Why has that never been done?
Oh, street by street, like this is what we want the streets. to look
Short
like.
answer is we're not required to.
but I'm hearing that we should.
Resources.
And so is it?
Ends on that.
I'm not on
So,
it.
but what does it mean? I mean, if we said, okay, let's have a transportation plan. What does that mean to staff in terms of time?
You know, it can be, it would mean hiring a consultant. But you can muddle through and do it bit by bit. And so every year we might have 4 more roads or something, streets, jargoning them, 4 more streets that are conceptually scoped out for you that you can evaluate. It doesn't have to be all at once, but something would help. So with the Lasher Street sidewalk project, we are anticipating that the funding availability isn't going to improve the full route, but we laid out some conceptual improvements for you along Jefferson and the lower part of Lasher, so that the public can start evaluating those and seeing what that might look like. Then they can influence them. To have that conceptual thing be something that's supported and not fought against by any particular corridor.
But then, to your point, it was kind of a big deal that, we were able to get through approving our transportation improvement plan. This is the first year, and it's the first step towards a legit, not an aspirational plan, but an actual firming up plan. So we're going to get better at it as we go from year to year. So much firmer, can't call it quite hardened, but a firmer plan than we've ever had before, but with the understanding that there's some wiggle room that, as just like you get a change order in a construction site, every once in a while something's going to pop up and you go, dang it, the mower died. So there's always going to be something. So firming up a plan it's got some built-in wiggle room. So we're on our way.
And like the other hole in all of this too is how a project gets from the big list onto the short 6-year list, and some sort of policy work on your part would really assist that. So somebody comes in and they say they really want my gravel road paved. Do you want a contribution from those landowners to pay for that now? Right? When we do big projects, we're relying on the feds or the state to provide all the contribution to it, or at least 80%, 87.5% into that pot of money. So the overall city cost is not as much, and we can do more projects with that. If somebody's pushing for their corridor or their project, do you want a policy to say, okay, if we organize a local improvement district for this, and you pay back the cost of that road improvement in your taxes over a certain amount of years, then we'll move it straight onto that 6-year list. There's policy work for you to do to ease this process every time, because this was painful for you. You did a good job, and it's better than it was before. And like the documents and the vision that was put together is way better than before and understandable by the community. I got another point on that.
So are you suggesting, or are you recommending that we make this a priority on our agendas then? Until we get it resolved? I mean, do we need to introduce this discussion into the next few meetings for us to consider this?
I think this will be fleshed out as part of the finalization of the strategic plan.
Okay.
What else?
I just lost the one part about what you were saying. The other thing is, you all went out and you hired a professional engineer to be your public works director, and the public doesn't have to recognize her and everything that she's done, but I hope that you will recognize her expertise in what she brings to you. She's, like she said, she's made a career out of fish passage, stormwater. You're dealing with issues related to fish passage and stormwater, and I don't see that appreciation for her background.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't know. Make me blush.
I wasn't gonna comment. I noticed that. I wasn't saying, but yeah. Well, that was, I guess, my question when I called in and talked to you guys a couple of times and just trying to figure out where do I go? So what are your expertise on those kind of questions that the council might have? because the public's going, well, all we're gonna do is just pave it and throw some concrete down on the edge. But at the same time, there are actual regulations that we just can't just do something that looks like it would be easy, but there's a lot of things that go with that. And so that's where we lean on staff to go, what can we actually expect this to be?
There's another thing that just occurred to me while you were speaking there, and I was daydreaming. I didn't say that out loud. Anyway,
Talk about appreciating staff.
a few years ago, this council approved a requirement for planter strips that would be like 3 feet wide or something like that. Would that apply to redeveloping, repaving? Like if we were to take on one of these roads and put in sidewalks next to it, we also have
I think that's
to.
TBD, Paul. Right, that's a great question.
Because we keep saying to city standards or us city
A
standards.
minimum
And
standard.
The minimum standard, but see, the thing is,
That
we're
has
saying
yet to
it
be
will
defined.
be to a minimum standard. That part hasn't, yes, that is.
We haven't determined that, right?
But
Right.
that is on the
But the
books.
fact, if we have everything's gonna be based on a city standard, now, yes, that's the next part.
What
Put
do
the
you want
peg,
that to
put the
look
peg in there, yeah, so that part is still to be muddled through.
When a new subdivision comes in, we require them to do that.
Right.
When we apply that standard to our road, well, I mean, what kind of fits, what, it would make sense, it's just not, it's TBD.
Yeah. So that
That's
may,
new construction, new
Yeah, the developers
development.
But-
required to meet the city of Stevenson standards. I think that
if
we
you
are thinking of a different minimum standards for existing roads.
but is Del Rey, for example, an existing road, or would it meet those, or would we have to put in the 3 foot planters?
It's existing.
It's got a blue sign existing.
Part of it is because we don't want to hold ourselves, we don't want to do the Stevenson engineering standard, minimum standard for our existing roads, because it doesn't make sense. Like,
Right, as it does.
we acknowledge that, right? Like it would be very, very expensive to go street by street and try to do that. And it frankly would look really out of place as well. So, I think that's why they should be different.
But there may be some things that we have to revisit, is I guess my bigger point, in order to make this work,
Right.
like that, for example.
Absolutely.
Well, I think as a standard for a new development, a new set going in, that makes sense to have that already on the books as this is what we would require. If it's brand new, taking this new area and we'll put it in, they have to have these things. But something that's
It's
here,
more of a
it's
maintenance
different.
standard, really. Like
Right.
it's more of a maintenance standard.
Anything that's here
Yeah.
is different. So anyway.
Dave, I do want to point out that we let the grader go and did not ask for it to be replaced for $150,000. So we aren't just buying new, we're also downsizing wherever possible.
No, his headphones are on.
Oh.
No,
He's listening to Blue Oyster Cult.
he's totally. listening to something else.
Like cowbell.
I got a fever.
Yeah, he's talking to somebody else.
All right.
Okay,
All right,
next.
anything else, Ben? Carol?
Just a note, because we have so many new staff, we've got a number of staff who are actively working towards getting treatment plant operator certifications as well as wastewater treatment plant operator certifications. So that's exciting for our group. That's kind of the waterfront. We've had a couple leaks that we've been fixing. Streets, potholes all over in the last month. Right-of-way cleanup, doing a lot of landscaping and getting the street trees kind of cut back, has been the focus on in that arena as well. Yeah, I thought we haven't quite developed this yet, but we're pretty reactive as a group, and so we are working on trying to put together, maintenance schedules and plans, right, for how we're going to operate. And one of those is going to try to move us away from being reactive, because we are very much like complaint driven, especially, guys like, hey, like, this is overgrown here, or this is overgrown there. And so in the near future, I am hopeful that we can, figure out where our right of way is, so we can say, no, that one's yours. Like, we're not gonna go we're not gonna go mow that. We don't have time. That one's yours. But then also be proactive, like in the newspaper, and community outreach, like, hey, it's springtime. Remember, you're supposed to, clean up your sidewalks. Like, if you need help with that, like, let us know. And maybe there's an opportunity for us to, hire out our services in some of those, areas that doesn't, that's challenging for folks to, maintain the areas that are their responsibility as the adjacent landowner, but working that out.
Is there any legal framework why that, for example, if good citizen wanted to hire you to mow their hillside, is that legal?
I have no idea.
You're talking about adjacent to right away, right?
Yeah, kind of more adjacent to right away, like things that would be their responsibility normally, but it's,
Perfect examples on Loop Road. like on
yeah,
the Ford property.
but it's
It's
just
like a
So,
freaking hill.
well, yeah, so
I'm not sure
when
what
it
that would
comes
look
to
like.
brush, Ken can chime in too if he wants. It becomes a gray area because even if it is on the private owner's property, it's the city's responsibility to maintain that visibility. So, that's where the city can take care of an issue if it's on a private property owner's property and then bill them for it.
Yeah,
After
I mean,
the proper notice.
that's that 2016 case that says we have to maintain site distance regardless for vegetation, regardless of whether it's on the city right of way or a private property. It's still our obligation to maintain that site distance.
Does that extend to other public safety issues? And an example of that would be somebody's blackberries that are encroaching onto the sidewalk and cut you as you're walking by.
And I mean, I wouldn't try to extrapolate that much with that 2016 case. It was very specific to vegetation and right of way. It was a tort case, and yeah, it could be cited potentially by other plaintiffs' attorneys for other things, but it definitely, that case, certainly for cities, it highlighted our duty to just maintain good site distance, especially when that site distance is blocked by vegetation, structures and so forth. The case didn't look at that either, but I also feel that we still have a duty to maintain that site distance from even structures. But the case dealt with vegetation, and so we should have a policy. The case also said it's not an absolute duty. If we have a reasonable process to make sure that that overgrowth is dealt with, then we can't be held liable even if there's an accident. So we have to make sure there's a process in place that would involve, typically, if it's city right of way, there's no real process besides just making sure it's cut, right? If it's private property, we need to have a process where we notify the property owner of the problem, give them an opportunity to correct it themselves, and let them know that if they don't correct it, the city will correct it, and charge them. If some cities have decided it's worth just correcting it and not trying to charge the property owner, but in that case, you got to be absolutely sure you have got a rock solid indemnification agreement, so that if you cut anything on their property they care about, or any cats or who knows what children, that we make sure that they can't come back at us. But so anyway, that's a process we need to have in place, and I'm not sure what we have so far, but it's a good idea we have actually a written policy and a procedure that implements that policy.
Let's see, Kent or some Puget Sound community has a line of red paint here and a line of red paint at that vision area that needs to be kept clear. And they spray paint that all the time. And then their annual program is to remind property owners, stay here, and if there's anything within that triangle, cut it.
So that's something that's kind of in the works right now for us as well. So definitely.
Yeah,
The second payment of the ARPA funds will be in by the end of the month, potentially. Got that email today. In your information packet, the Bridge of the Gods toll increases there. I think it'll also be in, newspaper and also other places. Yes. But so the good news this year is that they didn't increase it for breeze by, non-commercial breeze by users. Next year it will go up 10%. So, but yeah. And then, we'll also, I figure as a follow-up to our, council retreat, we'll also want to schedule a workshop to talk with the port about the Bridge of the Gods, as well. I mentioned that we'll be talking about that, later on. And so follow up to our council retreat, it will be July 9th, from 1 to 4. I'm still confirming whether or not we can use the Hagewald Center, so the location is still to be determined. But if the Hagewald Center isn't available, well, do you want to just have it here? I mean, we could just have it here.
One
Follow-
dollar.
Yeah, yeah,
I know.
July 9th, it's Saturday, July 9th.
I know it's definitely good for Scott and I. if it's here.
You want in the basement, you change the scenery.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, do you need to change your scenery? We could just put, yeah.
There's snacks down there.
Are
Are there
I've
windows?
never been in that room.
I know, I have.
Um,
down in the basement. This is an old Masonic lodge.
Mhm.
In the basement of the records room, some of the murals are still there. It's weird.
Ah, those-
It's also
This is an
Four
old
Squares-
Masonic lodge?
Four Squares
Yeah,
programs.
really? What else? So the next big project, did you mention the comp plan? Did I miss that?
No. I didn't.
Okay. So the planning commission has set a timeline for the comp plan amendment, which would be incorporating the capital improvement program that we've been working on before COVID. And so the goal is to have a workshop in July for that, and then for it to come first touch to council in July. So council will have a first touch, look at what that is. So, I'm really proud of how the documents came together for the transportation improvement program. They can be improved a bunch, but it provides an increased level of transparency versus just, I mean, even looking at neighboring cities and counties doing the exact same thing if it's just a list and that's all their documentation is. So our goal is to be more transparent and to get more feedback. So the workshop participation was great. And we're hoping to get that continued engagement for the capital improvement program. Like I said, just kind of adds another layer to it of all the other infrastructure as well as longer range projects. And the goal with all of this is, yeah, so we don't dig up brand new roads, and also so we don't end up in the same place we're at right now with a wastewater treatment plant, or a project that needs millions of dollars that we just didn't see coming. So that's the goal with all of this, and also hearing that there's been some concern with the roundabouts already. Again, in the study, it was, you know, hey, in your 2041 outlook. So again, 20-year time frame, this is what you're going to need to potentially do. There's a lot that's going to happen from now to then. And the goal is to start engaging WashDOT and the players in the conversation so that when it gets there, or when we reach that point, for traffic counts and for everything that we are ready to roll from all aspects. So they don't have to scramble to find funding on all sides. So that's the goal, but also early and often so that when it does come, people aren't surprised by it.
Right.
So they can have input. So just wanted to bring that up as well. And then I will not be at the next meeting. So I'll try to have everything will be out the Friday before.
I had alive outside of City Hall.
That's
did
What?
not.
I know.
I can't believe it.
Well,
Did we
today's my
allow
son's
that?
birthday too,
Great.
so.
Oh.
Yeah,
Happy birthday,
yeah,
on record.
I know, right?
Yes.
Big 5.
Oh.
Yeah.
I did
Oh, he
want
goes to 2 hands next year.
Yeah.
I did want to say thank you to the staff for putting together the workshop, because I actually had more people come to me and tell me how well it was organized and informational, and they appreciated whether or not they got what they wanted out of it. Like they might have been pushing for something that they didn't, whatever, but they appreciated the work we put into it. So that was very much what came back to me, because I had multiple people that came to it that were speaking to me about it. So
I met people.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Liz.
The-
down at the port.
this is great.
The
Yeah.
cool thing is that the format isn't necessarily new, but when you get that level of engagement, now obviously there's over one hot button topic.
Right,
However,
or 2.
Yeah, but having that level of engagement in that format, it's disarming. It's like not where you have to stand up and say your piece and sit down and just grind your teeth. No, this is, you have absolutely every opportunity to say your piece and also be part of the process and see the process. So that it's not, well, how can we get to say? So there was having that format, especially with that level of engagement, was pretty good.
So the goal is to continue. It is
That's awesome.
it is a heavy lift, but I feel it's very valuable to continue with. And also the mailers. I think we want to try to, I know we started doing newsletters once a year. It's again, just trying to figure out how to fit it in with all the priorities.
And
Just the one thing I was gonna say, Liana touched on it too, but the level of detail that went into this and the conceptual plans there does generate public understanding and public comment. And so that's a huge success. Even if they're vehemently opposed to something that's in there, they can understand it instead of this nonsensical list, which is the state requirements. And, you know, I don't.
You didn't even see that this year. I'll translate it into their stuff, but you don't need to see it. You just-
I like the fact that it was commentary and like the pictures and the commentary really showed some of those places I didn't know necessarily the street name, but I was like, oh, I remember this. That is- Yeah, that makes sense. And so it helped me figure out what you were talking about. And in some of the meetings, I wouldn't have known that just by the name of the street. So it was helpful.
I'm gonna continue pushing for a city street map. I just think that would be so helpful.
And I will always push for underground utilities whenever possible.
we talk about that all the time.
So we did actually meet with PUD on that, and their recommendation was to work with an engineer to generate a plan, and go from there. So, yeah, but
And costs.
costs is,
Yeah.
I mean, it all comes down to costs.
Of course, but that is a cost and that I think will be well worth.
Well, it's because then when the tree blows over, it doesn't take out the power. line
Right.
or the
And
cable.
power always out.
It's
And
just
it looks so much better.
the view quality,
Just
just
power.
It's funny because we talk about that all the time, aggressive undergrounding. But I
Yes.
laugh about it every time I come down where with all this work was with all those yellow streamers tied up in the lines.
Yeah.
It's like it's a party. It's like it's so
I know.
it's so
Mardi
happy
Gras.
and fun. when Kings-
Mardi Gras.
You know, why don't we hang some festive flags on that thing instead?
What have I done?
All right.
Okay, thank you very much. I would entertain a motion.
Vouchers?
I make a motion to approve the vouchers as presented.
Second.
A first and a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
All right. Any of you have something for the greater good that you'd like to share?
I will be in town more moving forward.
All right.
Yay.
That's good, right?
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got the machine, well-oiled machine in motion up there.
Oh, very good.
I will have more passive income.
Anyone?
So I want to get back to the Kanaka Creek underpass. Sorry, guys. Can we just add that to the next agenda or, I mean, obviously,
As far as what's the question on it?
right, what do we do about it? How are we gonna move
So,
forward with it?
I think staff needs a little bit more time to discuss what we can do.
I just don't
um,
want to lose sight of it.
Right, right,
Yeah.
no, but it will definitely be in the budget for next year to talk about, and engage with the consultant on longer term questions. I mean,
In short term, can we get
maintenance.
a load of that? I don't know.
You
I
just
mean,
graded it. The pictures you saw are not
That's
correct.
not today.
that's not today, no.
Okay, we're good.
Well, so just, continue keeping an eye on it.
Right, yeah.
Then conversely, though, one of the things that came up at the table I was sitting at was, don't close it, but keep it at a bare minimum of service right now, instead of dumping money into it.
Right,
That could be
right.
just like, well, why did we spend it then instead of or now, instead of doing a better thing later?
Later, yeah. I get it.
So
Or
finding,
an
like
offer.
finding that sweet spot.
Yeah, the board had offered to assist in maintaining it.
Well, there you go. Let's reach it. Let's examine that.
Yeah, but the right fix on that is a massive project.
Liana?
Yes, it's Dave.
Just a quick question. How much, do you know what the county would charge the city to go in and grade that?
Well, we can find out, they just did it.
Did it, yeah.
They're the ones that graded it a couple weeks
You
ago.
know, actually, I don't know if that's true. I think we might have rented their grader.
We
Thought
just
it was,
rented their grader.
Yeah, 'cause we-
John Gordy.
yeah, 'cause we used the mini to break up the potholes and then I think they might have just rented the grader.
Okay.
'Cause I think we're just.
We can find out.
Okay.
The whole in the budget, just you do it enough times, keep it maintained, and we're spending money that we could have figured something, but yeah, so.
Do my back driveway every year. Do gravel.
Anybody else? So real quick, what Liberty had her 8th grade promotion last night, and the principal said this is the first 8th grade promotion since the school's been closed, but since lockdown. So it was kind of a big deal. To that end, Blues and Brews is coming up in next weekend. It's the first one in a couple of years. So it's great to see. Now, the rain would stop. This fine nutrient, just, giving it all of our plants, all the, yes.
Yes.
The rain is great, but summer would be good. So anyway, just a message of it, we're getting back, getting out in it, feeling like there's lots of things to celebrate.
And hopefully it won't backfire on us.
When I talked to
Right.
Skunk Brothers, the owners, and they were talking about the car, how their car show, and then that's the same time as an outdoor music festival down there, and they're excited about all the things
Yeah, and
kind
I'll
of
be-
coming back to the
I'll be the
area.
MC at both of those events. So.
Oh, there you go.
You were allergic to
Given,
mics.
given gas prices, we may get more local Portland people coming rather than going to
There's one more item on here.
Disneyland. They'll come
There
here.
is. Anything besides the underpass, anything you guys want on the agenda?
Mayor, when's the Golden Shovel show going?
But right now, it's mid-July, carrying throughout the 11th, but
The
week of the 11th.
Okay, Liana, you put something out?
Yeah, when we have a firm date, they'll give us a more firm date next week.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Meeting adjourned, 8:38. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Stomach started getting really loud.
You?
We gotta get out of
It
here.
was.